Master Yoda I am. And listen you must to hoobazoo.com.
Drivers, start your engines!
Hit the pace car! What for? Because you hit every other damn thing out there, I want you to be perfect!
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. It's him. When he talks to me.
Hey, race fans, welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network and welcome to Drafting the Circuits. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about this past week in racing and preview the coming week. Joining me in the studio, I've got Richard Youden and Luis Torres. Guys, how we doing tonight?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Hanging on by a thread due to the nose.
Yeah, I know you've been under the weather, man, but I appreciate you toughing it out and joining us on the air tonight. So NASCAR had a big weekend out in Vegas, all three series in action. And, at the end of the weekend, it's Kyle Larson back in victory lane with Hendrick now these days. As you recall, Kyle Larson was just about around a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just about a year ago that Kyle was suspended and lost his ride with Ganassi for using a racial slur while doing some iRacing. And I want to say that was about this time of the year because this is about the time.
April, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was right around now when they had started canceling all the races and we're watching all the iRacing. So it's been a long road back for Kyle. I mean, mind you, he stayed busy running sprint cars and running dirt cars and winning everything he can there. And for a while nobody wanted to touch him, but he completed the NASCAR Road to Recovery programs, and he even drew some congratulations of Bubba Wallace, and I believe Bill Lester had congratulated him on Twitter, and they hoped that he had learned his lesson. But boy, what a great drive he put on there. What do you think, Louise?
Oh, not just Kyle Larson. Even last week at Homestead with William Byron, it seems like Hendrick Motorsports in the 1.5 mile circuit with this package, they seem to click something. And in fact, Hendrick has been on a roll dating back to last season. It's been a while, but for Larson, it's been elusive for that 1.5 mile track, because you usually see him do really well, especially Homestead. But to get that win at Vegas, it's a statement win. And I'm going to have to mention this. It's a statement win in my book because, one, when he was out front, nobody at the very end of the race, nobody could really catch him. No. Other than, Brad Keselowski was there, he was running out of time, and Kyle Busch as well, who got better as the race went on. But huge win, especially for a car that hadn't won in a long time, because the 5 car is the old 48 team.
Mm-hmm.
So with Cliff Daniels as an elusive win. So in all intents and purposes, this car has remnants of the old 48 of Jimmy Johnson. But with Larson setting the tone, he's had a great start. He finally got his first top 5 the Sunday prior, now to go back-to-back top 5s, but this one with a win. And the paint scheme that means so much to Rick Hendrick, because that is synonymous with Ricky Hendrick and Brian Vickers, that it's a big deal for them, not just because of the redemption arc, and it's very key to say redemption, not revenge, because redemption is more validated than revenge. Like, there's no revenge. It's just him proving his worth at Hendrick Motorsports, especially when he doesn't really have much sponsorship backings. Rick,
he's being sponsored by Hendrick Cars, right? But to your point about the that being the 48 team, that's a much needed shot in the arm for those guys, because they've been close over the last couple of years, but they just they had a long dry spell, while their teammate Chase Elliott is winning championships and whatnot. So great job to that team. Great job to Kyle Larson. Now, Richard, let's talk about this particular package, because it seemed to perform really well at both Homestead and in Vegas. I thought that last year we had some issues with packages not meeting tracks very well, but this particular one, I think it was if I'm correct, the 550 horsepower with
tapered spacers,
tapered spacers, So it's so lower horsepower, higher downforce, but it really seemed to improve the racing, Richard.
Oh, for sure. And the mile and a half that are historically the bread and butter of NASCAR's calendar, and it's been ironic that they have struggled so much in the last few years with producing entertaining racing on those. But to see these things go 4 wide or 5 wide in Vegas and hug the outside wall out at Homestead, it was fantastic to see, and they produce a really, really good racing, and they've got to be giving credit for that. Obviously, this year shouldn't really happen, as it were, with these cars. I think it was this year. The next gen was supposed to be coming in, wasn't it? But that's obviously been delayed back through to 2022 now, and it's good to see. It really is, and hopefully that bodes well for the rest of the season. Kyle Larson, a great win there. I mean, what happened last year for him was obviously, not great. But I believe that even if what happened hadn't happened, he'd still be in a Hendrick car right now, because I think his contract was up at Ganassi at the end of last year, wasn't it? And I think there was a lot of talk of him going to Hendrick, and I think that just sealed the deal for him, really, in an inappropriate way. But I still think he would be in a Hendrick car right now, and I think he's going to be a real challenge to Chase Elliott this year, and I think he's got a shot at the title for sure.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, as we look at the fact that we've had 4 different winners in 4 different races, now we're on pace to match 2011, where we had 19 different winners, which means you can have race winners don't get into the chase now. I mean, that's provided we keep up the pace of new winners. There's nothing to say that Kevin Harvick won't rail off 4 in a row. As he's known to do it now. But the interesting thing is that we've got 4 different winners. So that's kind of, if you look at the points, right, the guys leading the points right now, it's Denny Hamlin and Keselowski, who haven't won, are at the top of the point stand, just based on consistency there over the 4 races. So even though the Hendrick cars look great, the wins have been spread out, and you got to really look at these guys running consistently. But if they don't hit victory circle, we continue to have a bunch of winners there.
I mean, when you've had a couple, obviously the Daytona 500 win, you would never put them in a playoff berth, and then you'd probably put William Byron and definitely as a potential race winner, or at least a playoff contender, and Bell there. His first year with Joe Gibbs, maybe there or thereabouts, but they've sort of muscled their way in early, which is great for them. These young guys, huge amount of confidence, and it'll help them grow throughout the season. But you look at your Keselowski, Logano's, you think they're going to be there about. Then you've got Truex and Busch and Hamlin. Okay, well that's 5 places. Your Harvick, that's
Harvick,
6. You're filling up this. You probably think Bowman's going to potentially get one in there. Then maybe Kurt Busch or Almirola or somebody like that. You're filling up those spots really quickly. So you're going to want to get that win to take the pressure off you, especially some of these, high-end people, the high-end guys, the guys that, you look at Kyle Busch last year, not getting a race win until he was eliminated from the playoffs. And actually, I just wanted to, quickly sort of mention that. I think he was watching the Homestead race last weekend. Or the previous weekend, 10 days ago now, where he came on the radio and said, "This track's nothing like the simulator."
And that was he said the same thing this past Sunday at Vegas, both twice in a row.
And I'm not one to sort of blow my own trumpet here, but if you remember back to what I was saying last year, where I thought, especially the 18 car and the Gibbs camps were struggling, was simulation and modeling, because they, nobody had any track time last year pre-race, and that put a huge emphasis on your simulation work, and they struggled. So for him to say that was telling, and you still haven't had practice and qualifying at the last 2 races, and they've been saying the same thing. And Kyle wanted an engineer or a change to the team. Now, my guess is that it was the guys that do the simulation, which are typically the race engineers on the team. He wanted that change, and that's why it caused him to get a new crew chief. So I think there's a little bit to that now, actually, coming back to some of the comments he was making over the radio. And as the sport gets more and more advanced from an engineering aspect, which is going to, you can't stop it. As an organization, they certainly need to look at that a little bit better, I think, to improve those, to improve the performance there.
I agree. If your simulation and modeling is off, you're chasing the wrong rabbit, then you get in that race car. And I think that was Kyle's problem most of the year last year. Remember, he was the guy openly complaining about the lack of practice, and we were kind of, wondering, because Busch realistically has more track time than anybody out there for the amount of Xfinity and truck races that he's run over the year. But I mean, if the modeling's off, one other thing on Kyle Busch I wanted to mention. So I never knew that M&M Mars had an upscale line of fancy chocolates called Ethel M's, but I don't know if who thought up that livery color, but my God, that was ugly.
Come on, man! I have a refrigerator with that color. It's literally.
Do you really? Yeah, I was gonna say it's
a retro color, but
you're used to Kyle Busch with the bright colored M&M's car or the bright green.
Yeah.
It changes every year.
The bright green interstate batteries, but this thing was just a dull, putrid, a 1970s shag carpet green. So, but
I'd go back as far as
but hey,
50s.
but hey, if it pays the bills, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
paint the car, whatever. So I just wanted to point that out. So,
but speaking of Kyle, the big thing around him is he ran the truck series race. He got beat by his driver John Hunter Nemechek, but there's a whole debate as far as whether or not he delivered respawn. And, of course, it didn't surprise me when Kyle Busch told Bob Parkers in the post-race video call, said, nope. It's because here's why. Look what happened to Dale Jr. Look what happened to Bubba Wallace and Clint Boyer. They admitted, or they have the vibes like, yeah, they did it. Obviously, Kyle Busch is not going to tell whether or not he did it. We'll never know. It's because you know what happens. If you tell that you delivered a spawn, you're going to get penalized points. And sure, it's a truck series, but the 51, if I recall, are going for owners' championship. They've always happened for the past several years.
Yeah, well, I mean, but obviously by John Hunter Nemechek winning, that locks him a place in the truck playoffs, and that's Kyle's truck. So
it definitely makes him smile because we haven't seen a driver just deliver wins right out of the gate with Todd Gilliland, Harrison Burton, Christian Eck, because even Noah Gragson had a hard time winning. In fact, John Hunter was able to win this early in the season. It's telling that I think everybody expects him to be a title contender.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, John Hunter's he's a good driver. Yeah. He's got a great career ahead of him, but I want to get back to the Cup Series for a moment. Cause we were talking about the Gibbs team and, I did kind of notice that this is 2 weeks in a row that we've had Truex and Hamlin kind of rather upset with one another and rather animated on the radio with one another. Do you think there's trouble in paradise there, or what are your thoughts there, guys?
I think Joe Gibbs sets themselves such incredibly high standards, don't they? You look at their history, you look at the drivers they have there. No disrespect to Bell there in the 20 car. You look at Busch, Truex, Hamlin. If those three guys are all in the final four, nobody'd be surprised. So they probably have the strongest depth of driver lineup for a 4-car team in the field, and they're going to expect to be winning every race. I've always said, and I've mentioned it a number of times in the show. If there's 10 things you need to do correctly to be in a position to win a race, guys like Gibbs and Hendrick and maybe Stewart Haas as well will get 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 of those things right every week. So then you're focusing on 2 little things here and there to really check all the boxes and go for the win. So their levels of professionalism and preparation are huge compared to most of the other teams because of their resources. So, to see them struggle is a little bit unusual. I mean, how many top 10 outside of Bell's-win? How many top 10s have they had? I think Busch that was his first top 10 of the season, wasn't it?
First top 5 last week. Homestead was his first top 5, but yeah, his first top 5 this past.
But it's still not. He's not going to be like, "Woohoo! I got a top 5." He wants to win everything he does, as you see for his Truck Series and Xfinity Series history. The guy wants to win everything he sits in. So they'll get there, but it is a little bit unusual to see them not struggle, but I think it's a relative thing, isn't it, from where we expect to see them.
Yeah, and people forget that Martin Truex Jr. has not won since the Week 9 Martinsville race almost a year ago. It's been a long time for Truex, so of course there's a lot of tensions. It doesn't really surprise me between Hamlin and Truex, or even Kyle Busch, because all of them have kind of arguably defined the 20 teens as far as success is concerned, and they're very hard-headed, fierce competitors. But we can say the same thing as well with Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano. It seems like we went from that Keselowski and Logano, which they will have their moments every few years, to now Joe Gibbs. So it doesn't really surprise me between Hamlin and Truex, because they're trying to prove their worth. One is trying to win for the first time in nearly a year, and the other one is trying to get a strong regular season and finally get that championship.
Exactly. And you also got to remember as well that, a lot of the other teams here are factory partners with the manufacturer. Gibbs is basically the Toyota factory team, in everything but the name. Ford doesn't really have a factory team. Chevy have 2 technically factory teams, but they're still not as closely aligned, I don't think, with the engine manufacturers Gibbs are with Toyota. So, Gibbs's resources don't just stretch to what they're able to put into it, but they basically have, exclusivity, easy for me to say, with the Toyota funding there. So it's, there's a lot of money going around there, and they expect to win, and they will do. I still expect Hamlin and Truex and Busch to get wins, if not multiple wins this season. But as we mentioned, with some of these, and this isn't being disparaging to them, B-list drivers getting wins early in the season, it will start to make them sit and look up and go, we've got to get something done pretty quickly here, guys. So it'll be interesting to see how they rebound.
And speaking of those B-list drivers, that one McDowell kid,
that sounds terrible. Sorry,
I know, right? Yeah, but I mean, McDowell has kind of quietly been proving that Daytona win was not really a fluke. He's run consistently near the front of the field the last several races.
One of the things you'll find is obviously, when you win a race like that, with such, huge reputation as that, there's obviously a lot of accolades coming your way, but also a lot of prize money comes your way for winning that. And in addition, these guys have got a free ticket now for the rest of the season. They can do whatever they like between now and, they're not going to, in reality, they're probably not going to progress outside of the first round of the playoffs. But, they can throw whatever they like at that car now. They can be sent to the back of the pack every race if they have to. They'll bend bits of bodywork and have a shim spacer here and there that they shouldn't do. And, do we leave that in the car? Oh, sorry, guys. They'll push the envelope massively. And you're seeing that. You probably, a little bit of their uptick is probably due to, due to that. And also they've got, the way the starting grid is allocated now, they're getting reasonably good starting positions. And that helps them. It helps you run out the pack early in the race, and it keeps you out of the way of some of the carnage that's going on back in the middle of the pack and at the back of the pack early doors there. So, that Daytona 500 win is worth so much to a team like that. And the knock-on effects and repercussions can last pretty much the whole season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they're capitalizing as much as they can. I got to say, for a smaller team, they're really, they're really making a good showing. Now, I just want to circle back to the lack of practice and qualifying. And is there, do you know, Louise or Richard, are we going to return to some qualifying here later in the season?
Bristol dirt race for definitely. The road courses, the new ones coming up are the definite ones, and I believe Phoenix is another one, but that's about it to my knowledge.
What about the Xfinity series? Because I know we've got guys with Xfinity teams who just.
I don't think I've heard much on Xfinity.
Yeah, you got guys because they're already locked out. They would have to qualify to get in. You've got guys with teams ready to go. They just can't race.
Yeah, I'm sure like Our Motorsports, Jordan Anderson, and even the Bassett brothers would like that to get better, especially Anderson declared for Xfinity points rather than trucks, whereas some of the he's speaking before I go a little bit on the tangent. You just think about eligibility. There's this question about should Brett Moffitt consider go for Xfinity rather than trucks because how Our Motorsports are doing really well than they have. Even the second car with the partnership with Ryan, the Siegs and the Rayum brothers and all that, where they're using the 23, has been quite telling that they're there to compete. But right now, Moffitt's going for trucks, whereas Cody Ware is now an Xfinity points declaree, yet to make an Xfinity start, yet he's still making these Cup starts, which there's someone I don't understand. And there's also like Grant Enfinger, Christian Eckes, with Enfinger getting that ride with Cody Rohrbach, but he didn't get a ride due to lack of funding, and also he was going to run part-time to start off. He's not eligible. But who knows what they're going to do with it if he finally gets the win. We'll see. But all these points declarations and all these practices is vital at the end of the day to where they just got to figure something out. And hopefully sooner than later when this pandemic is done, we'll get back to it. I know for a fact on the other side, IndyCar has narrowed it down to 2 days of activities with the exception of Long Beach, St. Petersburg, Toronto, and Nashville, as far as the road to street courses are concerned.
Right. Well, you got those street courses or those street courses. They've got the 3-day festival. So that's obviously already a pre-planned 3-day event with all the other support races and the other things they have going on there. I think Gateway is already a 1-day event. I think it's going to be practice, qualifying, and race day all in 1 day. Texas is a doubleheader, so you're going to have that's just going to be 2 days, practice qualifying in the morning, race at night. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, the grid for race 2 is going to be set by the finish of race 1. I'm not entirely sure.
I know the race is past afternoon. That'll probably end by around sunset. It's going to definitely... It is a definitely odd one. I know Belle Isle is just 2 days, but with the IMSA a week earlier.
Yeah, but at the same point, they're not they're reducing the amount of days that they're in town, which reduces number one their exposure to COVID, and it reduces their lodging costs.
I think that's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. But at the same time, they're not eliminating practice or qualifying. You probably have 1 less or maybe 2 less practice sessions.
Yeah, even we saw Formula One. They, aside from Imola, they pretty much had everything as planned.
Yeah, Imola was the only one they reduced. Yeah,
and I don't know what's with NASCAR. I'd imagine it's just cost cutting, or it's just the fact there's more people involved. But then when you look at Formula 3, where they have like 30 cars, but they're only there for 1 or 2 days, it is a very complicated thing. Explaining and understanding or trying to digest everything is going to take a long haul.
I think from a logistics standpoint, it's a lot easier to do this sort of structure within NASCAR because they even have limits now on team members, isn't it? It's like 12 or 14 people per car or something. Maybe even less
social
than that
media
now.
folk as well.
Yeah, we see a lot of those won't be going to. Maybe one person goes to the track, but a lot of them probably won't be going as much as they used to, and all the PR people, because they're not going to have the people to sort of entertain and do all the corporate blurb with. So
who was it that got fined for having too many people? Was Chip Ganassi, wasn't it? Chip Ganassi got fined for having. I think it was maybe just one person that wasn't authorized
on the
to
list.
be.
And Chip got suspended for 1 race.
Well, I guess that opened up a spot for somebody else to hang out.
Well, they take it seriously, and quite rightly as well. And because it is expensive. It's one of the biggest expenses that a race team will have each year is transportation and hotels. If you think you've got 15 people each having their own hotel room, yeah, you'll probably get a bit of a block discount or whatever it is. But if you do that 30-something times a year, that adds up pretty quickly. And, the one thing with NASCAR is you can do it in a day. You as long as your haulers are at the track when the team get there, you may have 2 hauler drivers, and then, they'll get the garage set up. So they'll probably get all the toolboxes wheeled out into the garage and all that sort of stuff. So when the team gets there, all they've got to do is take the car out of the hauler, wheel it into the garage, do a quick bit of setup work because you've got your setup that you're working with for the race, and that's it. And so you can do that relatively quickly. Formula One, you can't do that. You have to build the cars. The cars come in pieces. And so you'll turn up on a Wednesday or typically Thursday, and Thursday's car build day. You'd spend most of Thursday building a car, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday you do your running. So it's just the logistics of it just don't work in Formula One. And NASCAR does lend itself to trying to reduce the length of the weekend quite quickly.
Yeah, and that's why you have guys running events like Kyle Busch, or even sometimes Stuart Friesen will run. Actually, not Stuart Friesen. That's not a good example. Kyle Busch would, and Kevin Harvick will have time seeing their kids run, and then on Saturday, and then Sunday they just arrive at the racetrack. They just literally arrive day of, and then they in and out. I think in some aspects it's helped him. I know Kevin Harvick's mindset has changed to where, with this pandemic that we dealt with for the past year now, that it's kind of opened his mind up. There are times to where it changes. Like even for the longest time, he just go by himself. He would not have anybody else join him until like very, very recently. He started to have like Keelan and coming to the races and all that because that's the thing. People take it very seriously. Some don't, but others do. And I think just having those one-day shows has kind of allowed those folks some time to spend time with the family.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But the one problem with the compressed schedules is, if you run into some trouble, if you recall, was it at Texas last year? Takuma Sato had put the car in the wall during qualifying.
Oh yeah,
and ended up missing the race because they just didn't have enough time to get that car back together. Because in the IndyCar, usually they have one spare car for the team, which is usually it's not quite in a full state of assembly, and then they can throw it together rather quickly if need be, but not that quick. Usually it's like an overnight kind of thing. So that's the only danger in that if you're not, if you run into some trouble during your practice or qualifying, you might do like Pearl Takuma and miss the race. And this is him coming off of having won the Indy 500. No, the Indy 500 was later in the season. I forgot. It was in August.
Yeah, it was in August. Yeah.
It was in August.
The season started in June at Texas.
Right.
I imagine it would be super hellaciously difficult. It just adds more baggage. Look at Simon Pagenaud at Iowa. He was horrible up until the race. They finally dialed it in. It took them literally till the race to get it better. So they were able to adapt quickly, but I imagine they'd be better. It would be ideal for them. They don't have to go through that, or any team for that matter.
Right. Okay. Well, let's try to wrap up our NASCAR segment a little bit by talking about the next couple of weeks. We've got the interesting thing about this year is there's so much variety in the schedule. You know what I mean? You don't have these long stretches of 1.5 miles after another. So we're coming off of a couple of sort of similar tracks. I mean, Homestead and Vegas are not cookie cutters, but they're a little similar. But next we're off to Phoenix, which is a little 5-turn oval, a little bull ring, and then from there we're to going to Atlanta, which is a cookie cutter, and then after that we're going to throw dirt on the Bristol Motor Speedway and run a dirt on the high banks there. So heading into Phoenix. Who do you like, Kevin Harvick?
I think there's no question Kevin Harvick. The funny thing about Harvick is that he had the whole Stewart Haas camp had a horrible week at Vegas. They were terrible. Harvick finished 20th, and everybody else finished outside the top 20. He didn't even lead a lap, and he was the pole sitter of that in that race.
Yeah, and Amarola's been nowhere this year.
Yeah, Almirola's had, aside from Daytona, he just. I feel like he's had incidents at every single race this season. because I saw photos through the NASCAR media that Almirola had a moment going into the turn number 1, but I don't remember if they ever aired it. It was like, good grief, Almirola has had to wrecked every single car he's had, apparently. Ever since he won that dual race, he's just been...
He's been nowhere. Yeah, so...
Chase Briscoe has struggled into the new car and adapting to it. And Cole Custer has doing a little bit better, but he needs more consistency. But for Harvick to finish 20th, a lap down, is surprising. But fortunately for him, he's got probably his best track on the circuit where he's won 9 times, but people forget he hasn't won at Phoenix in 3 years. He led the most laps a year ago, finished runner-up in the last quote-unquote normality race before the pandemic happened. And he also got a 15 top 10 streak on the line too. So I wouldn't doubt it at all that Harvick will be a contender. But Penske, I'm going to go with a Penske car winning it. And it's probably going to be Logano. So that'll be my overall pick. It's just to see how he did last in the championship race before Elliott gone by. And also just even when he won in the spring, I wouldn't count Joey Logano out for this one. I think it's going to be back to where we were with Penske getting... Well, actually, no. Or see the usual guys get back in the swing of things and start winning. That's what I meant. Logano.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all right. Are we settled on Logano? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Penske guys have been right there every week. They just haven't, sealed the deal on a victory, but they've been right there at or near the front, if they're not running into one another or getting caught up in somebody else's mess. Brad had a very solid second place at Vegas. So I do like your idea that the Penske's are going to be strong at Phoenix, and I'll go with Keselowski. And that leaves you, Richard.
It does.
And Harvick is still available.
Well, I mean, no. I'm going to go with Alex Bowman.
All right, yeah, Alex Bowman, yeah. Good little driver there, so... Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about Formula One, because there's this whole little flap with the Haas team and their livery. Livery reveals, right?
Let's talk about that because there's
let's dig into that a little bit because so as the story goes, if you haven't read this, folks, the country of Russia has a ban from the anti-doping agency, the ADA, I believe is called. In competing in international sports, and this bars them from the Olympics, and it bars any athlete from competing for that country. It bars any display of the country's flag. So actually, Haas's driver, what's his name,
Mazepin.
Mazepin he's not even sure how they're going to classify him, but he can't say he's Russian
or can't represent the Russian flag.
Right.
What is it? He can be classed as like an athlete of Russian nationality or something, isn't that? Some
like a neutral thing.
Yeah, some sort of little loophole they need to do because evidently this whole thing applies to the FIA, which it honestly it shouldn't, because these type of doping violations didn't happen in motorsports. But it's just kind of a blanket thing, and this commission oversees everything, including the FIA. So Haas reveals their livery, right? Yep. And red, white, and blue, which are the colors of the American flag, but they're also the colors of the current Russian flag, and they are in the exact sequence of the colors on the Russian flag. If you look at their front wings, the 3-tiered wing, it's the Russian flag. So now this has raised some eyebrows, and the ADA say they're monitoring the situation. But Richard, have you heard anything further on the fact that they're just monitoring the situation?
No. That obviously Haas have turned around and said, we've done nothing wrong. It's just coincidental. Yeah, right. Okay. It's a bit like when, Ferrari used to use that Marlboro logo that was everything but a Marlboro logo, wasn't it? It's sad. In a way, I'll be honest with you, it really is, because for the last 5 or 6 years, or if not slightly longer now, Haas F1 has been the USA's, the American team in Formula One, if you like, all admittedly based out of the UK for a logistics standpoint, they still, maintain a base over here in North Carolina and also in Italy as well, from aero development. But it's a real shame that you don't like to say this and you don't like to criticize it, but basically they've sold out. Obviously Gene Haas himself has been bankrolling this through Haas Automation and for a little bit of time Rich Energy, but we all knew what happened with that one. And obviously they've looked for, we're not going to beat about the bush, a paid driver. Mazepin is a paid driver. His father is an extremely wealthy businessman and has brought a lot of money to the table and wants the team branded in an appropriate way that reflects the investment of his organization. And organization is very heavily involved in Russian business, and basically it is a 200-mile-an-hour Russian flag going around the track, and it's a real shame because
and to anybody that grew up through the Cold War era, right?
Yeah,
it's it's to put the Russian flag all over the one American team there. It just seems wrong. You know what I mean? And I know it's all money, right? And and you can say, oh, well, it's still red, white, and blue. Yeah, but put some stars and stripes on there if you want to call it.
But what's even worse? What's even worse if you're taking that standpoint? Every year since the first Haas F1 car back in 2016, was it 15 or 16? I think. On the barge board has carried the US flag. That's gone now. So there's nothing which denotes that team as being. From all the press photos, I certainly haven't seen it anywhere anyway. So it's bad enough that it's basically the Russian flag, but then it also they've removed any reference to them being a US based team, and that must. They must be being paid a lot of money to do that.
Yeah, but at the same time, if the Haas F1 team is kind of a bit of a catalyst to attract more American fans to F1, they're going to fail
not the right way of going
miserably with this. Yeah, because they've already taken a lot of criticism for not actively seeking an American driver. Now, mind you, I know they had Ferrucci in the fold for a while, right? And
Logan Sargent is now going to do something else to where right now the only thing they got is Jack Crawford.
Right. And well, they've still got Pietro. Pietro's still a test driver for Haas, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's actually dual citizenship of American Brazilian.
Yeah. So that's why there's that nugget.
So that's sort of, he's a.
I mean, if you want to, what's it called? Clutching at straws here, to try.
Yeah. Well, he's a Brazilian Floridian. You know what I mean? Which,
So
I mean, Hickory Motor Speedway track champion almost a decade ago.
Yeah,
that's why they brought that nugget where Fittipaldi is technically the first American of any sort since Rossi to run a Formula One Grand Prix race.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So but it's just. I think to the bulk of American fans, you're the folks that call themselves red-blooded patriots, and especially older fans. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because the United States and Russia, have had a on again, off again, love-hate relationship for years. They're 1 minute we're under a Red Scare, we're afraid they're going to bomb us, we're building bomb shelters in the backyard, and then they're tearing down the wall, and we're all best friends again, and then they're meddling in our election. So watch any James Bond film. Russia's always the bad guy, So, but yeah, it's just off-putting to me.
It leaves a nasty taste in the mouth, doesn't it?
Yes.
There's something, something's not. To put it bluntly, something's not right here. And to the people that are very passionate about it. And Liberty have gone out their way to attract the US market. They're really hammering it. Excuse me. And, to see this come along, it must be oh, really, guys? Could we not do something better than this? I'll be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if they're not bought out by a Russian. If they're not bought out pretty soon.
Yeah, there's rumors floating that Haas is ready to just pack it in and sell.
And he's got no commitment to the US really from the team standpoint. Yeah, there's the marketing and the PR people, but marketing and PR can be based anywhere in the world these days. So he could sell up and the new owners take over the UK and the Italian facility and just rebrand it all. And yeah, it really does. It leaves a pretty bitter taste in the mouth in a way for the fans from the US who have been behind the team, who have with mixed success, admittedly, but still, to be in Formula One and to be competing is success. People forget that. People criticize like, Haas are terrible because they're wherever. Well, no, Haas are not terrible. It's difficult. It's this isn't a game that everybody can play. And it's just a shame. It really is. And you and also all the controversy as well with Mazepin and some of his comments late last year, or some of his social media activity, which he was reminded of his responsibilities, I think was the phrase that was used. You start looking to see if Pastor Maldonado is free for a drive, and if he's got any Venezuelan government money kicking around, don't you? That's probably a little bit cleaner than what's coming into Haas right now.
Could be, yeah. Who knows? And maybe Milcaduno still got some of that Cesar Chavez money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is what it is. So, but Richard, what are your thoughts on some of the other preseason testing started today? Did it not?
No, it starts on Friday. It
starts on Friday. Okay.
Formula 2, I think, is the one that
started. Formula 2 have had a couple of days.
Where Delata had a moment apparently, and Lundgaard was quickest as far as
usual suspects from last year. Really, the guys that you'd expect to be up there are up there. But Formula 2 preseason was last couple of days, and then Formula 1 is. I think you'll see some track action on Thursday with teams doing media days and what have you. But I think every team now has launched their car. For what it's worth, they're almost identical to last year's.
Ferrari, I think, is the only one left. They haven't shown the livery.
Who's that? Sorry,
Ferrari are left.
Yeah, Ferrari, I think, are the only team who haven't actually. They've revealed the team, but they haven't revealed the car yet, whatever that means. Williams have sort of done a virtual launch, but their car has shaken down during a test day. So it's not that they don't have a car; it's they decided to do an augmented reality app, which was hacked on the day of the launch, so it didn't work.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because isn't their sponsor a cybersecurity company?
Well,
and then they got hacked. Yeah, so that's just irony. So, but Louise, you said Ferrari hasn't revealed their livery yet, but if I was a betting man, I would say it's going to be red. I would say it's going to be red.
As long as it doesn't look like what it looked like in 1993 with the white thing on top, we're golden.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Formula 1 testing will begin in earnest, and we are about 3 weeks away from the start of the season.
Yeah. 28th is the first race. So you've got
2.5 weeks. Yeah. 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're Australia.
No, Bahrain.
Australia's
been moved. Yeah, Australia's been moved back to November.
They've shaken up the schedule so much it's hard to tell who's coming in.
I think so. It goes. Oh goodness me, where is it? It starts off in Bahrain.
Mm-hmm.
I think Portugal's been confirmed as the third race.
Yeah,
where's
the TC race is definitely Portimao now.
Yeah, Portimao's now in there, and so it's all a little bit shuffled up, but hopefully won't change too much.
And there's still
we can actually get some fans back.
There's still some niggling rumors that Monaco may not make it. Monaco's a pretty unique, setup there, isn't it? Really, and just the whole logistics of it, just with everything that's going on in the world right now, the whole logistics of Monaco make it. If
you're gonna have it, then just don't build grandstands. Just the people who can watch are the ones who actually live in those principality places.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody watches from yachts anyway.
Yeah, I could have sworn there were a couple yachts at Abu Dhabi, but I think they said they're seasonal residents or whatever, so they were fine to leave it there. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, and then as far as the IndyCar schedule is concerned, they are doing pretty well with announcing races. Arbor has announced with fans. St. Pete has been announced with fans. They're selling tickets for Nashville. Nashville appears to be a go. The one race in question seems to be Toronto, which Toronto may or may not happen, or may have to get pushed because they've, I guess, up in Canada, they've got another ban on public events that goes through the first week of July. And then I think Toronto was like the week after. So they're kind of right there. If the numbers don't kind of turn around in Canada, and Canada does not have quite the amount of vaccines that we have here in the States. So
yeah, they're a mess up there, because I know one of the people I follow on Twitter that does like tremendous instant content for the Vassar Sullivan entity, where it's literally tweeted like that, always telling me that Canada are not looking too good right now. Much worse than me being in my mid-20s. Probably not going to get an opportunity to get a vaccine until probably June at worst. We'll see.
Yeah. So, but I guess the popular thought is that if Toronto has to drop, then Mid-Ohio becomes a doubleheader like it did last year. And that's Mid-Ohio's on 4th of July weekend, which, if you ask me, is a horrible day to get some attendance at a race.
You have Road America Cup on 4th of July as well.
Exactly. And the drive from Road America to Mid-Ohio is not that far. You've got a lot of race fans that live kind of right in between there. It's right in the Midwest, right in the heart of Midwest race fan central. So
it's going to be interesting for sure.
I've got good friends of mine that are conflicted as to which race to go to, because they're folks like me where they, enjoy IndyCar very much, but they also love Road America. Because Road America is a much finer facility than Mid-Ohio. No disrespect to Mid-Ohio, but Road America is incredible. And the Cup cars on road courses are just so fun to watch. So, yeah, it's that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But if they do make Mid-Ohio a doubleheader, I mean, is what it is. At least they can charge a full ticket price for Saturday and Sunday. So there's a race both days.
Yeah, and I know the other. You brought up Toronto and Mid-Ohio. I also know that if motorsport doesn't happen in trucks, they're probably going to consider going to IRP, or known as Lucas Oil Raceway. So it's tough for I just feel bad for those in Canada for sure, that they may be out of luck again. And I don't know about Montreal with the Canadian Grand Prix at this moment either, because they're coming up. They're usually in June.
That's in June, yeah. So and you're still, Canada's still on lockdown into June. So that race could be in jeopardy as well. But I mean, just keep your fingers crossed. I mean, the bright thing is that we're seeing, a year ago this time, we weren't seeing any races. We weren't seeing any basketball games. We weren't seeing any baseball games.
We were seeing basketball games getting canceled in the middle of the game.
In the middle of a game, yeah. Yeah, we had no March Madness. We had no we had no NBA. Yeah. We had no Stanley Cup winner. So, but
everything got pushed back. The only thing that
had no Olympics last year, and so,
and who knows? I don't know. I still question whether or not they could even have one in 21.
Well, the Olympics.
Yeah, I still wonder if they're even
last I heard is that they were going to go forward with the Olympics, but they were going to allow no foreign visitors. So the only people from other countries allowed in are going to be athletes and coaches. So, which means, you've bankrolled your son or daughter's entire career to get them to the Olympics, and then you're not able to travel and share that moment with them.
So it's going to,
I think it's terrible. Yeah. But I
was thinking in a sense where there's like with Bathurst last year, it's just only the ones in the continent allowed to compete.
They said no foreign visitors. Yeah, or I don't think the continent. I think just the country of Japan. But I mean, that's a topic for another show.
Yeah,
drafting the Olympics, which airs Thursdays on Nick at Night.
Nick at Night.
I don't know. I'm just being silly. So.
I know.
So, Luis, have you been following some of the IndyCar testing? We've had a lot of guys putting down a lot of laps in a couple different places. We've got guys testing in Sebring, testing in Barber,
Laguna Seca,
testing at Laguna Seca. I haven't read a lot of test times and whatnot, but they're
not private, so you're not going to find one. I don't know how one we'll find a data unless somebody in the know told him, which I don't know how they got in the know.
Well, some of them have had posted timesheets. I know there was one of the tests. Spencer Piggott was fastest, but the deceiving thing about testing, and Richard, you can attest to this, is you don't know what they're working on in testing. They may not be going for a hot lap or a high speed. They may be testing different aero bits or whatnot. Matter of fact, I saw a picture of Juan Montoya was at Laguna Seca testing the McLaren car, and there were so many of those pit tubes on the sides of the car. It looks like he had two chicken cages, one on either side of the car, just to gather all that data. So he's obviously not going for a hot lap. They're doing data gathering.
When they run those, to give them the official names, the aero rakes. No, I mean you typically not doing straight line, constant velocity testing to benchmark what's going on there, which is interesting that they're doing that. Actually, I mean, obviously they're trying to do some aero work and get an understanding of what's going on. But you'd be surprised how much other teams know about what other teams are doing. You can work out fuel loads pretty easily from like engine engine tones and stuff. We used to do this in Formula 1. You used to sit there on a pick box and you put a little microphone out there and you record the sound of each car going past, and from that noise you can work out what fuel loads people have and all this sort of stuff. So you can work out pretty quickly what other teams are doing. But I mean, it's preseason testing. You're just trying to get back into the groove, aren't you, really?
Yeah, especially after, last year was such an odd year, and a short season. And so, but yeah, at the same time, it's just good to see, see all these guys back on the track. It's good to see some of the just real enthusiasm. I've seen some of these guys being interviewed because they had the content day the other day, which is, what they used to call media day, but they call it content day these days. And you've got some guys that are just really optimistic about the year. Will Power is one of them. He's looking forward to a great season. He's feeling really good. You've got a couple of guys that are working with Jimmy Johnson there, a couple of the Ganassi guys. They're just giving him high marks for his work ethic and whatnot. I'm interested to see there. You see Connor Daly have a new hairdo where he's wearing a mullet.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, hopefully he doesn't have a fiery incident and like he did in the truck race. Mullet's still intact, but before he had that incident, he's made a remark over the radio about his speed. Like, hopefully he's all right in that department. I'm not going to fully say it on there because, trying to keep it PG.
Yeah, but Connor made his truck debut. Yeah, in fiery fashion. Didn't end the way he would like. Has
second truck start of his career.
Oh, was it second? Okay, I'm sorry.
He drove Vegas last year. Was even some forgot about that truck start he made a year ago. So it's all good.
What about Ferrucci? Has he made a second start in Xfinity yet, or
he's running? What did I say? The next 4 races, so he's now in the second half of the stint. He had a top 15 day at Vegas. He did.
Okay,
he's pretty well. Like, if I recall, he ended up staying on the lead lap after getting the free pass at the very end of the race.
Oh, that's good because his debut race, I think he ended up 4 laps down.
Yeah, he had
four laps down, but he brought the car home in one piece, which is always, something that the team owner appreciates, as well as the guys that work in the shop.
Yeah, so we'll see how he does at Phoenix. I think his last one in the first stint of the Xfinity, I believe, is Martinsville. I know he mentioned Martinsville, so we'll see after Martinsville how I assess Santino, how he does with a car that is pretty much relatively new, car and team relatively new to Xfinity, dating back to a year ago or two.
Richard, I wanted to just to run this by you here. We've got about 7 minutes left in the show. But one of the question and answers during the IndyCar content day, they're talking about alternative fuels. And IndyCar says they're open to and pursuing a zero emissions e-fuel which is not to be confused with an electric car.
No.
Zero emissions fuel. So, what are you? I don't know. I don't know if you have any experience with this and whatnot, but I know you're.
Oh yes.
You're well. You're well versed in the mechanics of automobiles. So, let's talk a little bit about this alternative e-fuel. What that looks like and what this means.
It's probably looking along the signs of like hydrogen power or fuel cell, as they call it in road car world, and in in many ways, it's it's like the third place, if you like, in commercial energy for the automotive industry. Obviously, you've got your gas and diesel trucks, as your mainstay, but then your electromobility, e-mobility vehicles are starting to take hold in quite a big way, with almost every vehicle manufacturer now producing them, and some manufacturers are saying that they will, in the next 5 or 10 years, stop producing internal combustion engines, and go down the fully electric route. But there is, still sat there in the background, there is these hydrogen power cars, and their only emission from hydrogen powered car is water, so they are zero emissions in many ways. And it can be distributed and stored in tanks as it can with normal petrol or gas or diesel. So it's an interesting concept, and it almost in a way is the better solution than the battery power, but it's just not really taken up in a commercial way. Now, if that comes into IndyCar, that'll be a fascinating use of the technology there, and it'd probably be a good boost for it. But
because in my mind,
it's a long way off.
Yeah, it's a long way off. Yeah, but like I say, in my mind, you think that just the electric cars are. I'm not convinced that's the way to go, because there's a lot of bio waste from production of batteries. We can
have that conversation another day. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. So, all right. So, well, we are just about at the end of the hour, so we've got enough time to go around the table for a final thought with each of you guys. What are you guys looking most forward to for the rest of 2021?
Remind me about that question come the month of May. I'll probably give you a definitive answer, but fingers crossed, month of May, something good happens. That's all I can say. But going forward, hopefully we can get the Long Beach finale delivers. That's what really matters. I hope it does deliver. It's a historic marquee race, the second biggest race of the IndyCar calendar as a title deciding race. I just hope it goes through the roof come September. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And Richard, and you?
It'd be great to see in a couple of days now, get the Formula 1 cars back on track. See if the pecking order's moved at all. I can't see it being moved much. I mean, if there's anybody who's going to make a big leap, it's going to be McLaren with having the Mercedes power in there over the Renault. See how some of the new drivers fit in with their new teams. And, I know we talked about it quite a bit today, but I really do think there's more legs to this Haas story. And, I think that could get pretty messy throughout the season. And, we'll see what happens there. Stay tuned. All right. So
with that, I want to thank you, Louise. I want to thank you, Richard. I want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network. I want to thank iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and Google Podcasts. And you'll find us on YouTube now. I want to thank Keith Hayes for producing us. And I want to thank you folks that listen to us. Till next week, good night.